Let's say you have one physical server, right? This is happening at physical layer, right? Now, this is one server, one complete physical server. This is another complete physical server, right? Then the next is your one physical server. On that, you are creating multiple VMs. VM1, VM2, right? This is happening at the OS level or server level virtualization. Third thing is, let's say you have a server. On that, you have VM. On that, you have, or let's see, directly come to the, this is your containers. Then is your container virtualization, right? Which can be treated as application, or there is a step over it that if you can use multiple containers or multiple application on a single VM. So server level isolation will be higher, right? Why it will be application isolation or application virtualization?
Sorry, I answered it as containerization, so not application. Because
Any which
I
ways
mean,
container virtualization, the thing which will be is this, right? I don't know what were the answers, but this is the hierarchy, right? First is the physical servers. After that, you have VMs. Then you have containers. Or in case if you are on containers, you are running two modules on a single container. Then that can be considered. So, but in any which ways, which is the place where you are more isolation? As soon as you go from here to here, you will have more isolation.
oh, okay. That means it's totally, divided environment.
Yeah, see, ultimately we have to see from a perspective how it has been designed.
But
But
container will also like it will also like see we have one application in one container, so that is also isolation, right?
we are asking about higher isolation, which will provide you higher isolation.
So
If you
correct. Uh,
if you have a container which is running on top of this, let's say two application modules are running on top of this, on the in the same one, or you have multiple modules running on the same VM. So something which is completely separate will provide you higher isolation, right?
okay. And one container, one application, right? One module.
It can be possible that two modules are running on a single container. That is how you have designed your application. Most of the cases, it is one runtime. See, how do you define container? It is the runtime, right?
Correct. Runtime.
If
Yes.
in your code, let's say there are two modules which continue to use Python. Can they not run on the same runtime?
Yes. But
They
they
can.
pertain to one application, right? The module comes within an application, right?
Okay, so what do you? Okay, first of all, what do you think module?
It's a functions.
It's a function, right? So if
Yeah.
function is part of the code, I'm
Mhm.
considering two functions using Python running over here, two functions running Python over here, or maybe some Redis is there for caching, or MySQL, or Ubuntu, anything. It means these are two functions which can use, or let's say this process something, and this is doing the another task. So one task is done by this function, the output of this use is by another function. So this is only triggered once this is completed. So why can't I use on the same container?
Okay, we can use it.
Sorry?
Yeah, we can do that. Yes.
Yeah, we can do that. It's a piece of the code, right, which use the compute. First, you have to see from that perspective. Ultimately, what we are running, how we are using, that is what is that is what makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, what I understood, like, okay, you are talking with respect to runtime. So I understood like one container, it has one application. Like it could be of any technology. So I didn't think about this module perspective. Okay.
Means usually it depends upon how your code is written. Any developer or every developer have a different way of working. Most of the time, if you ask me, everyone is trying to
Wi-Fi isn't set up. For help,
just
go to your
with
Alexa
my
app.
Hello.
actually my Alexa app was misbehaving. Yeah, now it is. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes, you were asking something.
I mean, you were telling something actually. Yes.
I missed actually where I was.
No, I was telling we didn't think from module perspective. Like module is a part of an application, right?
Okay, yes, I was telling about it depends upon the developer how they are leveraging it, right? They can run two functions on a single. See, as soon as there is a different runtime, right? As soon as
Mhm.
there is different runtime, same container cannot be used, right? If
Mm.
the application uses the same runtime, the
Mhm.
entire application with different functions can run on the same container. Correct, Mahesh?
Yes, 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 correct. Yeah, that is correct. That's how it works. Application. Yeah.
But from an isolation level, if you see that, okay, so I will read it that as soon as you move towards more towards the physical server, right? Towards the
Mhm.
physical server, that is what is the where you get the higher isolation. More closer to the physical server, you can say. Is it fine?
Mm. Okay. Like I need to understand more. Somewhat convinced.
So, sir, the highest isolation is unikernels, right?
Higher?
The highest isolation is unikernels. Unikernels have the highest isolation, right?
Right. Correct. So kernel is you're doing at the physical layer you meant, right? Means the hypervisor layer, right? That is what you are
Yes,
mentioning.
yes, sir.
Correct. That is the place where you have the highest level of isolation.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so what is AWS Glue? What is AWS Glue? Or what does AWS Glue does? And again in data migration. Everyone knows ETL, right? You all gave the full form that day and we discussed about ETL. So what is ETL? And why there
Extract,
is
transform, load, sir.
why there is less participation in the class? Extract, transform, and load, right? So why is AWS Glue used for?
DB migration. I'm just guessing.
No.
Okay.
So mostly these things, ETL is what? Extracting data, right? When you
Yeah.
say extract, this all part or all everything is happening on data. And we are studying data migration. So it's all related to data. So once you are extracting the data, that is data migration only, right?
Correct.
Extract the data from various sources. That is a and later on when you want to, let's say, transform it, you extract it in the form of CSV file. Now let's say in CSV file that is a comma separate value. You want to remove the comma as that semicolon and move it into different, let's say, columns of Excel sheet. That is what is transformation. And now you are uploading or saving it somewhere onto the cloud, right, where the analytics can happen. So that becomes your ETL process. Make sense, everyone? That becomes your ETL process. So this AWS Glue service, what it does, it provides you a fully managed offering from AWS to do this task. Correct? So AWS Glue is a managed extract, transform, and load service by AWS. Correct? Where is it used? So the most common use cases are you can use for preparing and data for analytics, because ultimately there is a purpose of everything, right? So useful in or useful to prepare and transform data for analytics. Correct? And this service which you get, it's a fully serverless offering, right? Fully serverless service. Correct? So if you have various sources, right, from where you can grab the data, let's say most common sources, which I can think of AWS is, you can keep it to your S3 bucket. Is that right to say, everyone? You can keep it to S3 bucket. Apart from this, let's say if you are talking about a huge amount of data, one is this storage, other it can be sitting on somewhere on the, let's say, databases. So the most popular SQL databases of, let's say, AWS is what? What is the database you use in AWS? Come on, everyone.
RDS.
Very good. It is AWS.
DynamoDB.
That's a NoSQL database, right? Although you can use that, you can fetch the data, but most of the time, the bulky databases or the databases which are sitting on-prem or somewhere, the bulky databases are these RDS, right? Relational databases, where you are trying to put a lot of analytics, but you can use DynamoDB as well. DynamoDB are very simple, easy to construct, flexible schema is there, right? But you can use DynamoDB. In case the DynamoDB data is very huge, right? Which is hugely less, which I've seen. Now what you do, ultimately, there are various sources. So the first thing which comes is your extraction. You extract the data from various sources, right? Now you have to put this data somewhere, right? This is just bringing of the data, bringing or migration of the data. This S3 you can replace with on-prem as well. This RDS can be MySQL on-prem. I don't mind, right? So
Sir, one small doubt. So, this extraction is happening only from a storage of the data, or it can also come from a API response, JSON is API response.
anywhere, see, how does API works? API is a request. So you can do a API as well. What is the problem? The same you are doing via, let's say, copy and paste, do it via API. API can also
So,
do.
okay. But in order to have persistent data, that DB has to be required, right? Or
Let's say this is a file over here. I'm bringing the file over here. Can you bring it via API?
uh, yes, if there is any call, then we can use that. We can download by triggering that API.
Now I'm confused with the question. So, okay. So which API, first of all, you are referring? Okay,
No,
which
no,
API?
no, I'm talking in general. Suppose any service, generally, if we are hitting some endpoint and we are in term as a response, we are getting some JSON response, right? So that is also coming like as a data only. So if that data is maybe if we don't store that data somewhere, then can we directly use that data instead of persisting it or saving it?
So, if you are moving towards, let's say, real-time analytics,
Yes, yes, that's what I was talking about. Say there is some analytics tool, no, like segment and then mix panel,
I
those
have
things,
not
right?
worked on AWS, but in Azure, I have worked on stream analytics. There is one
Okay, okay. There
stream.
is also some Google also having Google Analytics, right?
Yeah, Google is also having, but I have worked with stream analytics where real-time data is being captured and that is being analyzed, right? It's a stream of data which is coming. But I think the class will go into a different direction, right? Your answer
Yes, sorry,
question is,
sorry, yeah.
your answer to the question is yes, it can be done via API, bringing the data via API. That is possible. Okay.
Y- Yeah, because see, if we really have to do that extract phase, then data can be collected from any of the heterogeneous sources, right?
Yeah, correct. So that is why I said on-prem. It can be anywhere. MySQL. Anywhere it can be, right? That becomes
Okay, okay, okay.
means I'm confused with your questions every time. I think what is your exact point means? Heterogeneous means the same, right? Either use S3, you use on-prem
Yeah,
over here.
yeah. So, sir, so see, there is two way, right? Either we perform the extraction via a stored data or via real-time dynamic data. Like millions of users is using some mobile device, and from that mobile device, if user is performing some action, so those events also going as a real time, so which cannot be controlled or stored every time, right?
No,
So
let's say
only as
you have for that we have services, right? That is what we were talking about stream analytics. Ideally, any
okay,
stream of data, whichever is there, which you see on cloud or anywhere, any example which you feel that that data is not getting saved. Any example which you can give? Any example which is moving, which data is there, but it is not being captured or it is not being saved anywhere, but it is moving, it is there. Any example which you have seen till date?
not sure actually. Yeah.
It's not possible. Any data, whether it is a live streaming of a cricket match or it is a live streaming of some logs you're capturing, it's live streaming of CCTV streams which are of, let's say, a railway station. Any data which you see as a live streaming, right? Every data is being saved. If
Okay, okay, every data is being saved, right? Okay, yeah.
And the stream analytics, the more purpose of stream analytics is that whatever data is coming in, you analyze it ASAP to make it real time. Nothing can be, it is, let's say, I drop a pen and it is captured and the result is given that, okay, this pen dropped at a speed of, or this was the gravity, or this is the time, this is the time it took. Nothing is as fast till date. Your data should be stored somewhere.
Okay, yeah, got your point. Yeah, yeah, correct. Actually, I was also curious to know that uh, that data has to be saved always or not. Also, yeah.
Right? Data has to be saved. You send the data, there will always be a and B. From A, it will be sent to B. So when it reaches B, it has to be saved somewhere to process it. Let's say you raise a order at your Amazon, you did a shopping at, there is a queue which is coming in between which you have seen as SQS or queuing offerings there, which is acting as a buffer with so many requests. It will store the queue and then process the ordering of your, let's say, your orders which you have placed on Amazon. Everywhere there will be some buffer, some storage, which will save it, and then you will be able to. You have seen caching. Caching is what? It is storage. No analysis can happen without saving or putting the data somewhere so that a code can be implemented to give the meaningful information.
Yes, sir. Got your point. Yeah.
Okay. So where was I? Let's come to this. So let's come to this. You have your extract. Next thing is you have your, let's say, service which you are discussing. This is your glue ETL, right? And the purpose of glue ETL is what? It is, it wants to transform the data. So you will be first extracting it, it will be transforming it, and then it will also be loading it to some warehouse where it can be kept. So you must have learned about one service in your AWS sessions. What is that one service where you keep the data for data warehousing? What is that one service where you save it for analytics or for anything? What is that one service which is there? You can respond in the chat, everyone. What is that one service or multiple service which is there? I think Sandeep said earlier, Kinesis. Yes, Kinesis is for stream analytics. So I've not worked with Kinesis, Sandeep. So, but yes, I have heard it's Kinesis Firehose, right? Which you are referring. What is that service? You all have learned in AWS. Come on, think. Irrespective of right, wrong, just try answering it. What is that one service or multiple service which we can use for analytics? No one knows. Yes, Athena can be there. Apache Kafka is the queuing mechanism, so on MSK is not right. Kafka is a lambda is a function, it is a trigger. I'm talking about for analytics. For analytics, data analytics. Athena is there. And okay, what do you use for warehousing? Yes, right, Unsa. It's Redshift, where you can warehouse the data and then you can use it for analytics purpose, right? So this can be your Redshift or AWS Redshift, which it can use for your data warehousing. And you have seen the data warehousing is needed where you can implement the analytics, which is there. Correct? Right, Sandeep. Now, when you're working with this glue storages, right? So obviously there can be a lot of discrete data set but what do you think? How it is working? How it is working? Come on, everyone, just try. Well, let me just grab an image. Correct. So various type of resources, just like we were talking about DynamoDB, right? RDS, S3. So these becomes what? These are basically your data sources. These are your data sources which you can leverage. Now there is one thing which is known as AWS Glue data crawler, right? So this is responsible for writing the metadata to the Glue data catalog, right? I'm just talking about this service because as of now it is not needed. This is needed in case deep dive you are doing when you're trying to working on AWS data engineer. I am just telling you this service because from a data migration perspective that you are planning to migrate the data for analytics. So these resources can change, right? So how you can bring your data for analytics purpose, right? So this is the place from where you can fetch the data, where the data may be coming from somewhere. You have to plan for the ETL jobs, right? These glue jobs, you see, these are ETL jobs and comparative work or comparative task, which you see, you have heard about Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory is also doing the same thing which AWS Glue is doing. Correct, everyone? What AWS Glue is doing. So there will be a data catalog. You will have databases. You will have table metadata, whatever is there. So you can point the data or you can use the data which is sitting at A location, B location. It will try to have or maintain the metadata of the tables, right? And later on, after transforming data, this is the place where your data is being transforming. It will be saving into either Amazon Athena, right? Or it can be Redshift, right? It can be EMR. EMR is what? Elastic Map Reduce. Elastic Map Reduce. Correct, everyone? That is the use case of Glue as an ETL offering when you are migrating the data from various sources. Make sense, everyone? Is it clear? Correct? Similarly, this Redshift which you're using, right? This is kind of a transaction or a storage which you can use for your analytical processing, right? At the back end, this is using your, or it's like a PostgreSQL database, just like you have. It's a PostgreSQL database kind of thing, which is implemented, right? It's based on basically, it is based on PostgreSQL, right? But the main purpose of using Redshift is like it is providing you online analytical processing. You have heard about transactions like OLTP and OLAP. This is providing you OLAP, correct? But why do we really want to use Redshift better than others? Because this offers you 10x better performance, right? It is offering you 10x better performance as compared to your other data warehousing techniques. Right, everyone? Correct? So you can read about Redshift more. I can talk about, or do you want me to talk a bit about Redshift? Do you want me to explain Redshift? Okay. Only one person. So, Praditi, you can briefly. Okay. So only two people. So then why you all can study yourself? It's not part of the curriculum. When the voting is high, then we can talk about this. Else we'll talk about something else. Okay, fair enough. So let's talk about Redshift. Okay, anyone who is targeting for data engineer role, first of all, or who has previously working on any kind of Azure service or AWS services? Anyone who is into already into AWS role? Okay, so my friend is a manager in one organization, and he is looking for the people who are working in AWS and especially in data engineer role. If any one of your friends who is interested in a job, I think the organization is TCS, right? In which he is hiring. So anyone who is interested, you can let me know. I can probably help you in getting for the interview. Rest is whatever skill you have, you'll be shortlisted on the base of that, right? But anyone who is looking for any kind of such roles, you can refer your friends, right? As of now, you are not working, but whoever is working, probably they can reach out. Okay, so let's come back to this Redshift. So I was talking about Redshift. This is based on PostgreSQL, right? And this is used for your analytics and data warehousing. Analytics and data warehousing. And this is most of the time it is OLAP, which is, I think I've written above as well, online analytical processing, and it is providing you 10x better performance as compared to the other services, other data warehousing services. Let me write it for you. 10x better performance. Other data warehouse and this can scale to petabytes, correct, of data, right? That can scale to petabytes of data. Second thing, usually when you save the data into your, let's say, Redshift or any places, most of the time you will see that your resources or the data which is being kept over there, that is saved in a columnar storage, right? It is data is stored in storage instead of row based. So what is the difference in columnar and row based instead of row based? Why it is columnar? So which means earlier what we usually do on Excel, on the columns we define the headings and on the row we define the entries. Yes or no, everyone? Correct? That is how we work or not? Columns carry the headings and row carry the entries. But here it is different. Here row carry the headings and column carry the entries. Correct? So it varies how data is being saved or how data is being working. And there is a lot of parallel execution or parallel query execution which is happening over here, which means multiple queries or multiple analysis can run at the same time, right? So it is very commonly known as MPP. You can read about this as well. Read about MPP in data warehousing, which is known as, let's say, massively parallel query execution, right? Just read about Redshift MPP stuff and you will get more informed. Now, since this is the serverless offering, the easy part is that you work on pay as you go. You don't have to worry about the cost. So you are just working on pay as you go, and this is based on instances which are provisioned. Instances provisioned, right? Now you have a SQL interface, right? You have a SQL interface for performing queries. The people who are looking for a data engineer role, you should have basics of SQL queries, that how you will be performing queries, because most of the things wherever you are working with, whether you work with your previous what do you call data engineer roles, you have seen, you have heard about SSIS. SSIS was the tool which was used long ago, right? Now everywhere it is more of a data analytics done on data factory, and here all these things are there. But the main thing which you are doing or main thing which you are working, the CLI becomes more common. Correct? So similarly, you should be aware about a basics of SQL in case how to perform queries or how to write queries. That is important when you are learning on SQL. Make sense? Now you have certain BI tools, especially for the presentation purpose, right? You have BI tools for presentation purpose. Correct? So in this, you can use Power BI as well, but since it is AWS, Power BI becomes costly because you have to get the live, although for 5 instances or 5 users, it is free, but usually you will see AWS QuickSight, which is very popular for graphical display, or you can integrate Tableau, right? You can integrate with it. Tableau is basically, you have seen that it is a tool or which is used in corporate billing. I've seen very widely corporate billing. It is very common. You will see in corporate billings, you can use it. Yes, Grafana also you can use it. There is no problem. Now there is, in case if you are using this Redshift, data when it is coming to Redshift, there can be multiple options, right? there can be multiple options from where the data is being coming to this service. And majorly, there is an option which is there, especially if you talk about the Redshift spectrum. There is a combination of leader node and compute nodes, right? There is a combination of leader node and a compute node which is there. So if I, okay, let's stick to this first. We'll come to that later on. In this, basically, you can load data from various sources. Data is loaded from various sources. Now, these sources can be anything. Let's try and grab one Redshift diagram. Okay, let's use this diagram. Okay. So now ultimately data is coming from various sources. You see, it can be S3. It can be Amazon S3, right? Which is there. Either it can be stage or various places the data is being evaluated in various things. It can do here. It is basically Glue is helping you to transform, right? As soon as the data comes, it is trying to transform. So your Glue service is triggered as soon as the data is being pushed or pulled from the Glue offering, right? That is what this diagram is trying to show you. Now, let's say when you have this, the storage, so one can be S3. Let's say you are using AWS data migration services. From that, you can get the data DMS, right? If you have your DynamoDB, just like discuss, DynamoDB is there. Someone mentioned about the Kinesis, so Kinesis Firos can also be there, right? So depending upon the node type, whatever you have, you can get up to, let's say, 16 terabytes of the data, which you can get per node, and you can have 100 plus nodes over here, right? So you can get up to 16 TB of space per node, correct? and you can have up to 100 plus nodes. 100 plus nodes is more than enough. It is like 1600 terabytes of data which we are talking about, which is into 1000 that much GBs, right? So it is already very huge, which number which we are referring over here. And you can provision these multiple nodes within multiple AZs, so you will get high availability as well. Everything I'm not writing, but try and make a note of this. That you, in case if you want to have multi-AZ, so can provision multiple nodes, and that too into multi-AZ, correct? But only for some clusters, not for everything. Only for some clusters. Now, usually what happens that when you're working with this, especially when we're talking about the spectrum, the redshift spectrum which we talk about, you can copy the data from source to destination, that regional offering is there, and you can get the data encrypted as well. There is no problem in that, right? But when you are working with this kind of redshift spectrum, there is one thing which is there, which is your AWS reader node is there, right? So what happens, let's say you have Amazon Redshift cluster. This is your, let's say, this is your Amazon Redshift cluster, right? In this cluster, there is one supreme node which is there, which is known as your leader node, correct? And inside this, what do you have? You will have compute nodes. These are your compute nodes, right? So ultimately what happens, you have your cluster defined. One is your leader nodes, other are your compute nodes. So the leader node will be the one who will be doing what, everyone? What does leader do usually? So the leader node responsibility will be what? That this will be doing, leader node will be responsible for doing a query planning, correct? It will also, let's say someone has made the query, so it will summarize and result the overall aggregation or result which is there, aggregation. That is the responsibility of the reader node. But at the same time, what compute node are doing? Just like you have a manager in your team and other are workers, it's like they are the one who are performing the key queries on the behalf of the leader. So for performing queries, let's say, and send results to the leader, right? That is what it is doing. Now, usually people get worried that when these so many transactions are happening, what is happening to the security? What is happening to the backup? How all these things are taken care of? So all these services, especially when you're talking about serverless offering, so you do have a backup and restore option available. Backup and restore is there, right? Along with that, security is also there, right? You will have VPC is there, you have IM is there, right? You have KMS offering is there, correct? You also have monitoring in place. So it is not a single offering, it's like a bundled service which you're getting, right? And along with this, you get enhanced VPC routing, right? You will be getting a enhanced VPC routing because ultimately, whatever compute nodes are doing, you have put the data maybe on S3, but after S3, whatever data is being sent to the spectrum or this redshift spectrum, that is the place where all the analytics is happening, right? So here comes what? Here is your sorry. Let's say this is my S3 bucket where the actual data is being saved or the data is coming from here. Everything is there, right? Now, on this spectrum or the redshift spectrum which you have taken, let's say this is my redshift. Redshift spectrum is there. So the help which the spectrum will be providing is that whatever query that is already in S3, right? And you are not loading any data to the Redshift cluster or the nodes. So you will query the data. Let's say you have this spectrum which is sitting over here. You will, let's say, I will create multiple boxes over here. These are your nodes sitting as a part of your these are the nodes sitting as a part of your Redshift cluster. So it is trying to query whatever data is being here sitting in S3. It's keep on querying and getting results as well. I am not creating multiple arrows, but consider that a lot of queries are coming and they're getting response, right? So the intelligent part of this Redshift cluster is, or the spectrum is, let's say you have data, something which is sitting in S3. Benefit is you can query the data which is sitting in S3, but you are not loading it, right? Wherever it is kept, you have done the query there itself, right? That is the benefit you get with the Redshift spectrum. But for this query processing and everything should work, this Redshift spectrum says that one mandatory requirement is there, right? One mandatory requirement is there. And what is the mandatory requirement if anyone is trying to do this? That there should be a Redshift cluster in place, right? Available. There should be a Redshift cluster available to start the query, right? If there is no cluster who is starting the query, this will all not work, correct? So after there is any query which is being initiated by the Redshift cluster, let's say it is initiating a lot of queries which are being initiated by n number of compute nodes to the servers. I'm not creating so many of them, but consider there are a lot of queries which are being received So all the queries, these are all triggered by whom? These are triggered by Redshift cluster. It will go to the Spectrum. Spectrum will do it only when there is a cluster is there who is triggering this, right? And once it has been triggered, then the query is then submitted to, let's say, to thousands of Redshift Spectrum node, which can do a analysis on wherever the data is saved. I am showing S3, but it can be anywhere, whichever has been mapped as an endpoint, it can do the query, whichever is there.